it says here, elevated design shouldn't mean elevated stress. At least not if your budget and your expectations are actually in the same time zone. Well, I couldn't be more blunt about that. And if you don't understand where your investment's going, you're gonna have a hard time turning inspiration into a home that actually gets built. Oh, hey, didn't see you there. I'm glad you joined me. Today, we're gonna talk about something homeowners think that they understand, but almost always never do. And that's the budget. And specifically why almost every home building project goes over it. And listen, I'm not talking about just custom homes. You can go over on a remodel. You can go over on a production or spec home. If the money moves, the budget moves across every type of project. So if you're building or renovating anything, this video is absolutely for you. Because when people walk into their first meeting with the number in their head, they don't realize that that number isn't the cost of the house. It's just the amount that you want to spend. And when those two things get mixed up, what you want to spend versus what it takes to build it, everything starts sliding sideways. Now, I'm Nick. I'm a superintendent here for a custom home builder in Central Florida, and I've been doing high-end custom homes and remodels for the last decade. And this is my channel, Got Studs, where we're cutting through the BS in home building. Before we jump in, hit that like and subscribe, and try to stick around to the end. There's something later in the video that will genuinely help you keep your project on track. All right, let's start with what a budget actually is and why it almost always drifts over the number you began with. All right, budget does not equal cost. Most people will try to budget a home before they actually start choosing the things that make it a house. So what happens? Well, you'll end up signing a design agreement or preliminary proposal, or maybe even a full build contract with allowances, all before real decisions have been made. And it all feels official. But here's the truth. You have not made the real decisions that determine the cost yet. You may feel like it because you've picked your style, white cabinets, quartz, LVP flooring, a nice shower, but those aren't selections, those are categories. The decisions that move the number actually live inside those categories. Let me give you some examples. What cabinet line? What quartz group? What's the size of the LVP? What's the wear layer? What tile pattern are you looking for to put in your shower? What size? What finish? What layout? Every one of those choices moves the real cost of the home. So at contract sign-in, you define the box, but the selections inside that box are still wide open. And so your budget and your actual cost still haven't met yet. And it's normal at this point. And this is where allowances come in. Allowances can get blamed for going over budget. But here's the truth. They don't blow the budgets. Exceeding them does. Allowances are not promises. They're not guarantees. They're budget markers. Placeholders meant to keep the project aligned with the number that you started with. But here is the problem. Allowances are tied to the budget. Your selections are tied to your taste. And when those don't match, the budget loses every time. $3 flooring allowance, but your eyes land on the $6 square foot plank. $4 tile allowance, but your heart's set on the $8 square foot tile. Lighting, plumbing fixtures, appliances, every category is like this. And when you change your mind, it just gets more expensive. Because now you're not just picking something higher, you might be picking it twice. And this leads me to the next thing that can absolutely send you over budget. And that's changing your mind. Look, changing your mind is normal, but it creates a chain reaction in the project. Let me give you an example. Say you want to move a door a couple feet over after we get to trim out because you have a piece of furniture that absolutely has to work in this room. Well, we got to get the framer back out there to move the door. We've got to get the electrician to move the switches and the outlets that were in the way. We got to get the drywaller back out to patch the drywall. Certainly got to get the trim guy back out there to reset the door and trim it out. And painter's got to come back and paint everything. Want to add some lights? Great. Means we got to get the electricians back in there, move the electrical, possibly reworking insulation, certainly drywall, retexturing, painting, change tile or change cabinets after they've been installed. Now plumbing, countertops, electrical, all that has to shift. Look at it like this. Changing your mind is like shaking a snow globe. It looks good in your head, but every trade on the job is dealing with the flurry. And the real budget killer, changing your mind adds time. Timeline pushes, trades shift, momentum slows. And here's where the real cost creeps in. When one trade slides a day, the next trade may slide a week. And when one selection changes, 3 other trades may have to rework their whole bid. And when one layout shifts, materials need to get reordered, rescheduled, and refitted. So it's not just the cost of the change, it's the cost of everything that it touches. And if you have a construction loan, every extra week is more interest, more carrying cost, and more money going out while nothing new is getting built. Think about it like this. Early decisions are cheap. Late decisions are just expensive. They slow the job, they jam the schedule, and they stack cost on places that you may never see on a line item. Changing your mind doesn't just affect the cost, it moves the timeline. And timelines can be one of the most expensive parts of the entire project. Everything that we talked about so far is in your control. Now let's talk about what you don't control. And we call these on a job the unforeseeables. Unforeseeables aren't rare. They're part of the job you can't see, but you almost always meet them eventually. Soil conditions. A soil analysis may show 4 feet of clay underneath the building pad. Now you're over excavating, hauling out, hauling clean fill in, compacting, and even if you had an allowance for it, it's easy to exceed it. Septic systems. If you build in an area that has those, bad soil can mean different systems, more advanced systems, mound setups, and they can swing costs massively quick. The grade and the drainage of where your home is getting built. Everything looks flat until the laser and survey comes out. Water must move away from the house. And so that could mean fill dirt, regrading, more labor time, definitely more machine time. Municipalities, right? So your power, your water, your sewer tie-ins. Long runs of that can be 5-figure surprises, especially on rural properties. Material volatility. The prices of concrete, PVC, electrical, steel, they certainly move with global supply chains, not with your spreadsheet. None of this is predictable, but all of it hits the budget. Those are just a few examples of what might be considered an unforeseeable item on a project. And sure, while you may budget for it with an allowance, it's easy to exceed it. And while these are the things that nobody really plans to happen, let's talk about the one thing that people actually think they're doing right, but actually derail projects more than anything else. Negotiating. Negotiation is the most misunderstood part of a budget because negotiation can feel smart, it feels responsible, it feels like you're doing your homework, but here's the superintendent truth. Negotiation doesn't remove costs, it just relocates it. Let me explain. When you're negotiating with materials, so cheaper, slower, lower grade, labor, fewer hours, fewer crew members, scope, what gets included and what quietly gets removed, schedule, reshuffling manpower and delaying phases, and risk. Who carries the unknowns? Risk never disappears. If you push the number down, you're forcing the builder or trade to handle surprises without any room to do it right. And when there's no room, quality is the first thing that pays. Here's how I notice homeowners negotiate and why it backfires. If I get the price down, I win. Well, my neighbor saved money. Everything is negotiable. I shouldn't have to pay that much. But more often than not, homeowners are negotiating from emotion, fear of overspending, fear of being taken advantage of, fear of choosing wrong, or fear of the commitment. And here's what actually happens. Allowances will shrink and your selections instantly blow by them. The builder will shift into protection mode. They stop playing offense. They stop being creative. They stop being proactive. And their priority becomes protecting the margin, not the momentum. Your job will lose priority because builders will prioritize clients who keep the project moving forward instead of fighting every line item. Here's how builders negotiate and why it can backfire on them. Builders will tend to negotiate out of fear of losing the job, fear of looking too expensive, fear of downtime. So they'll cut allowances, margins in site work, flooring, concrete, the room for unknowns. And if they start the project underwater, the project pays for it later. How I notice trades will negotiate and why it backfires on them. They'll typically negotiate from scarcity. I need the work, or I'll make it up later. So they underbid and then they rush. Send fewer guys, cut corners, patch instead of fix. Think of it like this. A cheap bid will almost always become an expensive repair. So here it is. The real problem with negotiating. Negotiation doesn't remove cost. It just relocates it. Push the price down and pressure moves into materials, labor, scope, schedule, craftsmanship, quality, relationships, and the timeline. Someone will always pay for the negotiated price. You just don't find out where that cost landed until later. Because in home building, you can change the number, but you can't change the reality of what it takes to build a house. And the truth is, the real cost is going to show up eventually, usually right when the job needs to move forward. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you. We've covered mostly everything that can cause a home building project to go over budget. Allowances, selections, changes, unforeseeables, and negotiating. Now let's talk about the one thing that protects your budget better than anything: knowing when to say no. Yes is the most expensive word in home building. Every yes adds cost, complexity, time, coordination, delays, but no will protect your timeline, your allowances, your momentum, your finish date, your sanity, and your wallet. And it's not just homeowners. Builders need to say no more often too. No, that won't hold up. No, that's not worth the money. No, that change will wreck the schedule. No, we can't do that unless we move 3 other trades. Saying yes may get you the upgrade, but saying no will get you a finished home. So to close this off, here's why your home building project will go over budget. You exceeded allowances, the selections escalated, changes stacked up, unforeseeables arrived, negotiation shifted the pressure, and the word yes was much easier than no. You don't go over budget because you made a mistake. You went over budget because nobody's ever actually explained this process to you and how it actually works. But now you do. I'm Nick, this is my channel, Got Studs, and I'll see you on the next project.